Scrappy people, Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a TRD Sketchy Sunday. This is sketch number 32 that I'm going to be working with today, and I'm also working with the Hearth and Hollow collection in this photo of me basking in the sunlight in my new kitchen. And today I'm going to be, I've already pre-made this photo or this layout in Photoshop, and I'm going to be remaking it on the screen. You can, or on the, in real life, that's what I meant. I'm going to be remaking it in real life. You can see that there is already some mixed media as well as my journaling here, and I'm going to be building over the top of it. I'm also going to be adding in a stamp from the Cocoa Daisy Doodles and Dashes #2 collection with some Juniper Mist ink from Catherine Pooler. So let's get started. Alright, so obviously when I have already designed this in Photoshop, I'm basically just reassembling when I am creating the video. But the finished product doesn't always completely coincide with the digital layout, because obviously in Photoshop it's harder to add things like texture, paper tears, curled edges, and I want to incorporate some in real life stuff too, like those stamps from Cocoa Daisy. So what I want to focus on in this voiceover as I put this back together are some ways in which I am thinking about adding in some more interest to this hybrid layout, which is something that I talk about a lot on this channel, because obviously I sell hybrid product, and besides printing questions, the number one question I get, or the number one pain point for people when using hybrid product, is that everything is paper. And as tactile scrapbookers, we really love depth, we really love bling, we really love different textures on our layouts. And when you're using paper product and only paper product, and this applies to hybrid product as well as if you were just using papers from a already printed collection or even stickers from an already printed collection, you can still get this lack of depth, lack of interest when you're using just paper products. So I like to combat that in a few different ways. First, I added that digital mixed media to the page before I printed it. I am not huge on in real life mixed media, just because I'm a control freak, and I really like to have mixed media that I can control, obviously. So I add the digital mixed media, and my mixed media in my collections, I try to make sure that they are textured. They have different textures. So I know you can't really see too closely from here, but the pink, the dark pink, has like a palette knife texture on it, and there's also some watercolor texture, and so that helps. If you were going to add real mixed media after the fact, you could do the same thing, add different textures with your mixed media. So then another way in which I created a lot of texture here, obviously, is all of these paper layers. Now I added those deckled frames to my paper layers. They're not in the sketch. I added the deckled frames just for something a little bit different, so that it would have just that extra, I mean, it's the edges more than anything, because all of the rest of the edges in that paper stack are straight edged, so the deckled edge adds just a little bit of visual interest. And then I'm doing the same thing with these stamps. Now I'm repeat stamping here. You can see that I am removing some of the ink before I stamp. That way it is a little bit faded and not so dark, and also because that adds another layer of texture, because if you look at the stamping closely, you can see that there are parts in the stamp that are darker than other parts, so it gives it sort of that watercolor effect as well. Now I stuck those under the edges of my papers so that it would add to that mixed media vibe that's already there, and also be more than just a word. If I just stamped grateful, it would just be a word stamp, but because I repeated it and I stuck it underneath the papers, it becomes part of the design rather than a word, which is good because I have this title that I've already created. So I'm going to stick this title down with liquid glue, because when you have thin titles like this, whether it's paper or acrylic or whatever, you need a fine line glue. I use Nuvo glue. I get asked that a lot when I use it. It is Nuvo glue, and I like it a lot, especially when it comes to what I'm going to add at the end here, which is sequins. I found that a lot of glues were not holding down sequins long term, but the Nouveau glue does. So here I am adding this title from the collection. So the red word peaceful is actually the alphabet included in the digital kit for Hearth and Hollow, and then the home is a scripty title that I changed the color of to match my layout that is also included in the digital kit. And I layered those two over the top of each other so that they would, again, create some depth. You can also pop things up on pop dots. I didn't use any pop dots in this layout, but that will give you some shadowing and a little bit more layers. And now once I get all of these houses down, because I wanted to add houses because the theme of the page is about my house, but once I get all these houses and florals down, I'm going to add in some texture as well. So I'm just sticking these underneath, wrapping them around. By overlapping these florals and these houses and the photo and everything and sort of wrapping it around, you can see that top floral that I added goes under the photo but over the house, which the house is over the photo, so that's kind of wrapping it. That creates some visual interest as well. And then I'm going to stick this one under here. All right, we're almost done adding in all of the stuff that I pre-planned. So now I'm looking at this going, okay, I need some more texture. And when I trimmed my photos in between the page, it kind of made it ripped because of the scissors that I used. And so I'm going to add some more of that ripped vibe to the page with this distressing tool from Sizzix. And I'm just going around the edges of everything and adding in some distressing with, it's just basically a blade around the edges. And I can also do the same thing. I could have inked these pages or these papers before I put them down. It would be very hard to ink them afterwards, but that is another way to sort of define the layers. But I really like this ripped vibe that we've got going on. Now the last way I'm going to add in some interest is with these sequins. Now I have these sequins from last year. They are from Spiegel Mom Scraps. I bought them last year because they matched this collection so beautifully. And I want to make it look like they are scattered. Like I don't want it to be perfect. It's actually too perfect right now. I don't want it to be perfectly in a line. I'm going to add some down here as well. And this side comes out a bit better initially than the first side. So I'm going to add some more dots in as well. More sequins in. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm mixing up colors so that, you know, I don't have 4 blue sequins next to each other. It's okay if they're are blue sequins next to each other, but I want it to look accidental rather than, you know, planned, but not too accidental because I don't want 4 next to each other. It's a fine line that I walk, making it look on purpose but not. So we are getting close here, and you can see how much better these look as far as like clustering and scattering. I think it came out a lot better, so I'm going to add in even more up here, sort of overlapping a few, and that will help add a little bit more spontaneity to these sequins, which sounds funny when I'm placing them down one by one, but that is what I was going for. You can see that orange one really helped that situation. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Traci M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. There is a link in the description box below to this sketch where you can download a printable PDF, as well as see all of the examples from the team. It's a brand new team, so there are a ton of examples, and there are links to every product used as well. All right, I will see you next time. Thank you.